Welcome to Graduate Spotlight, a presentation of College Success Arizona. This program features the hardworking college graduates who have earned scholarships from College Success Arizona and are now in the workforce or continuing with their education. Today on Graduate Spotlight, we interview Robert Madril.
I was officially born in Tucson, Arizona, but I was raised in Nogales, Arizona, which is about 60 miles south of Tucson, right on the border of U.S. and Mexico.
And where did you graduate from high school?
I graduated from Nogales High School back in 2008.
And how old are you currently?
Currently, I'm 27.
And you attended the University of Arizona?
Yes, that's correct.
And what did you earn your degree in?
So I received a BS in psychology and minored in Japanese studies.
And what are you doing now so far as a career?
So far I'll just say my current position, I am a clinical supervisor at an outpatient mental health clinic here in Tucson, and I've been in this position for a little over 2.5 years now.
And what do you do as a clinical supervisor? Yeah,
clinical supervisor. So I manage a team of clinicians who work with a children's population, primarily from birth to about 12 years old, and we coordinate effective services to help them either, there's pretty wide spectrum of, kind of interventions that we offer, but really the main purpose of what we do is to help children and families get to where they need to be successful with whatever it is that they're struggling through as it relates to their mental health.
Is there something in terms of mental health challenges facing children that's more dominant than other? I mean, is there one or two things that just jump off the page?
So probably the things that at least I experience the most with the population I work with. We do work with a pretty large population that's involved in some manner with the Department of Child Services, so DCS, or it's formerly CPS. So we work with a lot of clients and families that have experienced some pretty highly traumatic events, and we get them connected to the resources they need to work through that trauma and process it. Aside from that, there is a lot of issues that we work with to help with various effects of PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder, namely, coming up with crisis plans and other interventions to avoid any sort of serious consequence that could be harmful to the child's life, namely self-harming or other self-destructive behavior. We also work with helping children work through other school readiness issues as well. So helping them be in a place where they can be successful in school, just with the foundation of their own mental health. So things like whether it be attention deficit hyperactivity disorder or other types of anxiety disorders as well.
Do you enjoy your work in the sense that you find it rewarding? Because it sounds like you see some fairly traumatic and probably some pretty sad stuff on a routine basis.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is just kind of going back to my time in college. Something that I knew I wanted to do was to help people. What that looked like, I wasn't sure when I first started college, and as I went through both college and went through the College Success program, it was under a different name when I was there. But when I went through that program with the help of the advisors, it really kind of clarified how I would use my time and use my my mental energy to help others. So this has been something that I've kind of discovered as being something that is really rewarding for me, and really, it really is fulfilling in the sense that I have the opportunity to go out every day and help other people as my job, and really have that idea of just knowing that I'm making an impact and knowing that I'm doing something to help not just individual children and families, but impacting the greater community as a whole.
Growing up in Nogales, did you have some idea that this is what you wanted to do as a career?
I didn't think I had this specific role in the field as what I wanted to do. Like I mentioned, I knew I wanted to help people. I knew I wanted to give back. How I did that, I wasn't sure. But I think this sense of community in Nogales, in the sense of just belonging and having that very, expansive and really trustworthy support system there, and just even the cultural influence, and that comes with growing up in a border town, and comes with being exposed to just my family's culture, but just the culture that is cultivated in that kind of environment, that's, I think, what's led to me discovering that this is something that I'm really passionate about and something that I do enjoy doing. So yeah, in a way, it wasn't something that was clear to me when I was growing up, but it's something that definitely has helped in discovering and finding that passion.
Do you have any interest in pursuing further education, maybe a master's or a doctorate, so you could become a full-on psychologist?
Yeah, I'm actually in a master's program currently. I'm enrolling into my master's program come the next semester. I have short-term goals of being a licensed therapist to work more closely and I think more specifically rather with children and families that have experienced a traumatic event. So, whether they have a post-traumatic stress disorder diagnosis or whether it may just be something that is really impacting their daily functioning. That's something that I set as a goal, to be able to work with those families in a higher capacity than I am right now, and with having a license and having the ability to provide that really focused and structured therapeutic intervention. You're
enrolling at the U of A?
No, unfortunately, they don't have the program that I need to be licensed. So I'm going to enroll into Grand Canyon, which is the best option for this field for me right now.
So you'll be coming to Phoenix or doing it online, or do they have a campus in Tucson?
It would be online primarily, and then commuting if I need to be there in person.
And going back now to College Success Arizona, you earned the scholarship, which at least now provides up to $6,000 per year for educational expenses. I'm assuming it was something similar to that when you went through the program. Can you talk about how the program, the mentoring, they also provide a success advisor, basically a mentor who works with you throughout your college journey, which seems to be really, really helpful and effective with first-generation students. Can you talk about the mentoring and the financial aspect of the scholarship and its impact in your life?
Yes, I'll start with just pointing out I had two advisors when I was going through the program and when I was going through my undergrad. I met with Paul Raya initially, who was my advisor up until the end of my junior year of college, and then I met with Angela Delgadillo the senior year of my studies. So I mean, we met whenever they were in Tucson and had their check-ins, and pretty consistently had communication via email. So I think from the motivation aspect, it was really helpful to just have someone that, was an advisor, but someone you can talk to on just what options there are once you get out of college, but also what really things look like when you do or you to receive your bachelor's, and making sure that you're on track to get to whatever goals you had set for yourself and what you wanted to do. I just remember back to those meetings and, having those check-ins with both advisors, and, a lot of it was looking over things like GPA, class schedules for the upcoming semester. That was extremely helpful to be able to have someone to really just kind of, track and have a differing perspective. A lot of times when you're in a university, not to say that there aren't advisors at the university, but a lot of times, those advisors they're available, but maybe not to the extent that you would be able to have those really, really insightful conversations and seeing what paths you're going down and how that could impact your overall success and your goals. I think from the financial perspective, I can honestly say that without that financial piece from the scholarship, it would have been extremely difficult for me to get through college and get through, just the coursework and all that. I was working through college, but it was nowhere near the capacity I could be able to sustain myself and my tuition on top of that. So I think that's where it's been, just for, sake of sounding cheesy, it really has been a blessing to have that sort of support, and seeing that, where I'm now, and just looking back to that time, it was a really critical point in my life and a critical aspect of being able to get through a time when it's really difficult being a first-generation student and having those challenges of, not really knowing what you're getting into because you don't really have someone in your family who can, kind of guide you through the ins and outs of what college really is. Not to, downplay my family by any means. They're extremely supportive and so helpful in so many ways, but it was something that was challenging for me because I had to really cultivate support. So I knew really what to expect when you're going through those, 4+ years of college, whatever it is that you're going through. And I think that's where it was extremely helpful to have someone that would be there to have those conversations with, and to really just review items that needed input, being a first-generation student, not really having exposure to the university system as a whole.
And for middle and high school students, maybe in Nogales or other places that may hear this, can you offer some advice to those who are considering their own college options and opportunities?
Yes, I think from a very procedural end of things, just applying to whatever is available and really putting yourself out there. I think being a middle school and high schooler, I think, especially from Nogales, it is, I don't want to say difficult, but it is a little bit intimidating to have a lot of those conversations with those that may be offering, support and assistance, and just knowing that it's okay to ask things. It's okay to ask your support system, whoever is reaching out to you, whoever you reach out to. It's okay to ask questions, and it's okay to put yourself out there. I think another piece of advice, more on kind of a psychological level. I'm a BS in psychology, so I have to go psychological level. I think knowing that it's okay if things don't always work out the way you think it's going to. I think one of the big challenges that you find being a first-generation student and a first-generation or just the first in your family to be in college is there's a lot of expectations put on you to maybe be something that you don't necessarily want to be or want to achieve. It's really finding, the program that, going back to what we're talking about, College Success Arizona, looking at the term success, it's what is success, and what is success to you, but not necessarily what is success to others. So it's really defining what your success is. And once you've identified that, once you know what your success is, then, setting your goals based on that, and setting your efforts and putting your efforts into what you know your success would be once you go down that path. Obviously, talk to other people what that is, and get others' input, and know who's hard. Cultivate your support system and talk to your support system. But ultimately, you're the one that defines your success, and you're the one that is going to put the effort and be the one that's motivated to get to where you want to be, and define yourself as being successful.
And you might have said it already. When did you graduate? What year from college?
From college, I graduated in May of 2012.
Gotcha. Now talk about life after college. Is it more stressful, more difficult than you thought it would be?
I wouldn't say it's more stressful or more difficult. I think it's just different types of stressors and different types of difficulties. I think you learn a lot about yourself in college, and you learn about what you find interest in and what you find passionate for in the classes that you take, in the different, especially in those beginning few years, the really kind of general exposure you get to different fields and different types of ideologies and all that. But I think once you pass college and once you get into the quote unquote real world, it becomes a lot different in how you find what you're passionate about. There is not a relieving, but a different type of empowerment that you feel, and that you do make your own choices, even on a broader spectrum. You don't just have choices on what classes you're taking, whether or not you're taking a full case or a full class load and all that, but you're looking at things like, the really big questions is now that I have my degree and that I have the education, now it's what do I do with it, and how do I structure my life so that it fits my ideals and fits my my preparation leading up to this point. So I think the big thing for me was, it was definitely a transition. Obviously, my family and my support system that I cultivated going through those years were still with me, which was obviously a big help. It was stressful more in the uncertainty aspect, in that you have 16 years essentially if you go 12 years through grade school, and then have 4 years, say, in college, and then you have these really structured goals and getting to the next grade and getting to the next level. Obviously that still can keep going, as evidenced by, a master's program, things like that. But at the next point, it kind of goes back to what I was saying about defining your success and defining your next step. That's, I think, the biggest challenge, is having that freedom to make those choices on a bigger scale. So that does include a different level of stress that may be that is different than, am I going to pass this final or pass this midterm, or am I going to get a good grade on this midterm? Am I going to keep my GPA up? Things like that. So, really defining what it is that you're going to be doing with all that, and how that impacts you going through everything as you transition into employment and all that.
Thank you so much for the interview, Robert. And by the way, since 2005, College Success Arizona has worked with nearly 1,300 students just like Robert and provided more than $16 million in scholarships and success services to help increase the college attainment rates in our state. If you would like to be part of the mission of providing educational opportunity to high-potential students from low-income circumstances, your tax-deductible contribution can be made through the Donate button located on the College Success Arizona website at collegesuccessarizona.org.